Hello, Jackie.
Hello, Phil.
Over the years, I've come to really admire Jackie, consider her a sister because of some similar circumstances we've gone through. Basically dealing with cancer, right?
Yes.
I'm a pretty open book about my whole recent experience with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So I was diagnosed in 2010, and in 2000, was it 23 or 24 this year, I guess?
So this year, the second time.
This year. I was having all these GI issues and the surgery. And during the surgery, when they took out a piece of my small intestine, they had it biopsied. So there's a clue right then and there.
Right.
And 2 days later, the surgeon came in and said I had diffuse aggressive B-cell non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. She said I had cancer. That specific cancer came out later. And my reaction was I was no longer surprised. But I didn't, a lot of times I hear people say, why me? Why do I have to get this cancer?
Right.
And mine was still, again, like 2010, why not me? I don't think I'm that special, like I'm,
Right. Anybody could be in your shoes. Yeah.
Anybody can get cancer. But the most interesting thing that I've been talking about lately is in 2010, when I got the news with it, I didn't even know I had a tumor on the back of my tongue, really. That was had no idea, but it had metastasized to my lymph nodes, and that's how they found it. I had no doubt I was going to recover. None. I knew it was going to be rough and brutal, but I had no doubt that I would live.
Yeah. I had that same reaction, actually, when I was diagnosed. I remember it was my parents and my sister who told me that I had leukemia, and they were all very sad and upset. And I remember responding, why are you so upset? I'm not going to die. I remember those words coming out of my mouth. They're around I was in the hospital, I was in my bed, and I remember them telling me what I had. And then I was like, okay.
How old were you?
17.
17, diagnosed with leukemia. Wow. But this time, I have doubt. I had doubt that I would beat it, and that surprised me, and it kind of brought up a little fear, not a lot of fear, but some fear. But I found myself over the last 3 or 4 months really thinking about my affairs and are they in order? And even as I'm working on some art pieces, and I'm thinking I wonder which one of my kids or my relatives or my close friends, my brothers and sisters or whatever, would like this piece or would like this piece that I would leave behind. And it wasn't morbid, and it's still I am curious. I'm not as fearful about what that moment will be when you realize you're going to pass over or go through. And is that the beginning of an adventure? Or
right, the next adventure.
Or is it the end?
Right.
That's the fear.
I like to believe it's the beginning of the next adventure.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. During the time you were getting treated the first time, or any time between now and your second diagnosis, was there any moment where you felt like if you were ever diagnosed again, that you would not be able to handle it?
Oh, yeah. Especially right after the first treatment. I even wrote, I think, a blog about it that said, God, I can't do this again.
Yeah.
It was just too hard.
Yeah.
I really broke down and wept. But then when you get to do things like see children graduate, get married, have grandkids, go on an epic adventure like walking the Appalachian Trail, or the last 14 years to see what CCAR has accomplished. And then you start to build your strength again. And so I had thought about it, if I did get cancer again, that I could probably deal with it and go through with it.
So does this round feel easier or harder than going through it the first time? Or just different?
The first one was easier in the sense I had no doubt. Physically, this one was easier, or is easier. I don't know. I have done 4 rounds of chemo as of the date of this recording, and I have 2 more rounds to go. And each time I do a round, I ratchet down a little bit, So 4 out of 6, and my energy is really low. I want some weird things, like obviously I've lost my hair.
But now your eyebrows, you still.
Yeah, but don't pull on them. And I have itchy skin, like this itchiness is not fun. But it's really, and I have aches and pains and sometimes some shooting pains, which kind of surprised me. But overall, I'm functioning pretty well. Mornings are a lot better. By the time I get into the afternoon, I'm like, I don't even think I can move really all that much.
Yeah. So what do you do for self-care when you start to feel the tiredness coming on?
Beat myself up.
Do you?
Sometimes, because I say, I can't tell if it's chemo and the cancer and all that, or me just being lazy.
But there's no cancer anymore.
Right. So that's or me just being lazy. But we did get news that the PET scan I took this week revealed no cancer, that the cancer is gone. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
And there's always, as you know, there's always, the cancer story never ends.
Right.
Because I asked about, relapse and chances, and
right.
Of course my cancer's of this rare type, and it was where it was located, and they weren't able to, all these reasons, right? And so it looks like about 70% chance of remission staying for 2 years, and then at 2 years the numbers get better.
Okay.
Now some people might say, well, there's a 30% chance you can get it again, and she said, of course, with your cancer, it's tricky. It shows up in different places and weird places. And so you just have to be monitored and all that. But there are treatments still available now for those and all of that. So
how much do you rely on the numbers?
I don't.
Okay. Neither did I.
It's just kind of like... It's just the information.
Right, yeah.
Because all you can really do is you could be optimistic and say you're going to be the one that's on the 7 side, or pessimistic and be one on the 3. If you're in the 3, I think it also becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
There might be some kind of energy or thought, that negative thought.
Yeah.
So I try to say I am positive that, and I don't even, because it's down the road.
Right.
It's not in the present.
Right.
Today is that, as far as the PET scan can tell and the way I've responded, I am cancer-free, which is an incredible thing to receive. And even though you still have to go through probably a couple more months of, sickness and all that.
Treatment and unpleasantness.
Then I'm looking forward to climbing out of it and getting myself back in really good physical shape, and looking forward to what I can do each day instead of what I can't do.
Yeah. I remember when I was, going back to my first diagnosis, they're throwing all the numbers out, and I had like a 25% chance of living, and it were horrible, horrible numbers. And I also remember one of my oncologists saying to me, you can't look at the numbers. You're either going to live or you're going to die. Those are what's going to happen, one of those two things. So,
and we're all going to die eventually anyway, right?
So, and she said, if it's your time, it's your time. And I remember her saying that, and it actually gave me so much hope, because it was so much, the numbers were so much against me.
Right.
And, but, I think back to my initial reaction, and I think about those words, and I thought about well, just the faith that I had
Yeah.
that sustained me through all of that. And I remember there were times when I was just wishing for one moment to go by because it was one more moment that I survived.
Yes.
And here I am still.
So that was 17. How old are you?
Now?
I know it's not a proper.
54.
It's not a proper. It's not a proper.
I don't care.
proper. So that's like 37 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
you beat the odds.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been smooth all those years.
It
You've
has
had
not.
other.
I have there, and most of them they claim are long-term side effects.
Mm-hmm.
So I did have a year of chemotherapy, and then I relapsed, and I went for a bone marrow transplant.
Mm-hmm.
My brother was my donor. He was an exact match, but he was as close as could be without being an identical twin.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, I was very lucky. And I had very little graft versus host disease, which is your body rejecting the infused bone marrow.
Right.
So in that sense, I was also very lucky. I was able to go home, and
This is all in your late teens?
yes,
This first time?
17,
Yeah.
18, yeah.
Did your brother's bone marrow make you feel more like a boy?
No, but those are the questions that you ask because it's like, am I going to grow a beard? Is my
Yeah.
voice going to get deeper? Am I going to go get bigger muscles? You know, I'm like, no, it's just bone marrow. It doesn't have anything to do with any of that. Like, okay. But yeah, we asked all those questions.
I'm sure.
Especially at 17, 18,
They're very
like, oh my
real,
goodness.
practical questions, right?
Yeah. Yes, I remember that. That was actually kind of funny. And I can laugh about it now, of course.
All right.
And I forget what my point was, where I was going with that.
Well, you said you had a year of chemo, and then you were talking about how long.
Oh, yes. And then, so then as part of the bone marrow transplant, I had total body radiation. And they said that there were probably going to be lifetime side effects of all of that treatment because the chemo
Total body radiation?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get like put in a tube or something and you just get cooked like a microwave?
Pretty much. You get put in, you get wheeled over to the radiation center and you get put on this big bed.
Yeah.
And it's a room, you're isolated, and everyone's, you see everyone in the
windows.
viewing windows. So I remember waving and sticking my tongue out and everything at all of them. And of course, it was my parents, and they were very upset, and I was always the one that would be like, I got this.
You were the clown.
Yeah.
I can relate to that.
So I had total body radiation. And a lot of side effects from that, from infertility to cataracts to, they think the breast cancer that I've had was part of that.
Mm-hmm.
I am also now pre-diabetic, which they think is part of that. It's just like the list goes on and on. But I'm still standing. I'm still kicking.
They think that it's interesting too, because I asked, where did this cancer come from? And the chances are it could have, it's the typical answers, right? It could have just surfaced on its own, or it could be a side effect from your previous treatment.
Right. Well, and anything. I know
it doesn't really
things,
matter.
Right. Yeah. Right. You still have to
really
deal
matter.
with it. Yeah. Yeah, and I know some of the things are definitely, but like now the things like the breast cancer, the most recent breast cancer diagnosis was just 2 years ago, and it's such a long time ago that it happened. I have a hard time thinking that it's part of that. I don't know that there's research that supports that or not, but I'm just like, you know what, it is what it is. And I've chosen a different path this time for the treatment of that too, which was very different than the first time. And I don't know what's going to happen after this, if it's going to come back or not. So you just kind of roll with it.
How is the treatment different?
So the first time I was diagnosed, I went, they had recommended a lumpectomy, which is a surgery to remove the cancerous area, radiation for 6 weeks, and taking tamoxifen for 5 years, 20 milligrams. So I did all that. Fast forward, that was 2006. Fast forward 2022, diagnosed again in the other breast. And they wanted essentially to do the same treatment. They had said that the radiation now is much more refined, so they would have been able to target the area better with less side effects. but they still recommended the lumpectomy, the radiation, tamoxifen combination. So I went for the lumpectomy, and I was good with that. Had it all taken out. They had clear margins. I was good to go. Had a hard time getting myself to decide to go for the radiation. I went for all the measurements and the tattoos that they have to put on you to make sure that the beams are going in correctly. And I was ready to go. The week before that was supposed to start, I was like, I don't think I'm going to do this. So I called and I said, I'm not coming. And their response was, do you need to talk to a social worker? And I said, no, actually, I'm very happy and content with my decision not to go forward with this. And then my oncologist called and said, well, what about tamoxifen? You still going to do tamoxifen for 5 years? And I was like, I don't think I want to do that either.
What happens on the tamoxifen to you?
So tamoxifen is supposed to prevent the recurrence in the same breast and prevent occurrence in the other breast.
Right. So,
they're touting this as, you're not going to get it again. And my response to them is, well, I did. So did it work? Maybe for the time that I was taking it, it worked. And I don't know. That's another thing.
Were there side effects when you take it?
For me, no. I had very few side effects, but for many women, they have very...
And don't know what would happen this time.
Right. But I just didn't want to do it.
Right.
So we kind of did a little negotiation, and my oncologist was like, well, what about if you take half of a dose for 5 years? So 10 milligrams for 5 years. I was like, no, I don't think so.
It's an all or nothing thing.
Right. So then she said, well, what if you did 10 for 3 years? And I was like, no. Wow, she said, what about 5 milligrams for 3 years, which is a quarter of the dose?
Yeah.
And I said, would that even do anything? And she basically said, we don't have the research to know if that's going to do anything or not. So I said, okay, I'll take 5 milligrams for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I started taking it. And then I started not taking it. And so I was taking it once in a while. And I was very honest with her. I told her that. I'm like, I just don't want to. So I just had an appointment 2 weeks ago. And I told her that again. I was like, I don't take it regularly. And I don't know that I'm going to get to the 3rd-year mark. I'm 2 years in now. And she said, well, do you want to just stop taking it? And I said,
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she said, I will support any decision that you make because it's your body and it's your treatment. Right. So I have stopped taking it. And now I'm like, okay, let's see what happens.
Are you doing anything else, like any natural things or anything? Nothing?
No. I exercise regularly. I try to eat as good as I can. I take care of myself as much as I making sure I take time even for my spirituality and for just emotionally keeping all of that in check, because that it stirs up a lot of stuff, which I'm sure it does with you too. And I know, like, when you were diagnosed that day that you came in and told us I was a mess, and I was like, oh, this is not good.
I think it's fine. Why is it not good?
Because I'm here to work. I'm here to do my job. I'm here to serve. And when stuff like that pops up, it takes me off of what I'm doing here.
Well, you're also you're empathic. So,
I am.
So you can feel a lot that you don't necessarily need to feel.
Yes. Yes, this is very true.
Very deep emotions, which is good. Let me ask you a question about, because I think this is an interesting role in dealing with not only cancer, but addiction recovery too, is the role of faith, right? And you said you had your really strong faith, even when you were 17, knew that that, hey, I'm not going to die. What's your faith like at 54?
It's very different than it was.
How so?
I think back then, so I was raised Roman Catholic, went to Catholic schools from 1st grade through 12th grade. That was what I believed.
Right.
It was, right or wrong. It was these are the commandments. This is how we live. This is what we do. And it changes because you start to question a lot more, of course. And it's very, I know I don't consider myself Roman Catholic anymore, but I do feel that I'm much more spiritual now. I feel I am much more in tune with, and I don't even know what to call it anymore, because I think it's it's the life force, the love, the universe, whatever that energy is.
God. Whatever
Jesus, Mary, Buddha, whatever.
Recovery says higher power.
Higher power.
Okay.
You know, I think I am much more in tune with that now, and I feel much more peaceful in my life than I have in a long time. But there are times I was very angry. You know, again, the why me. You know, why couldn't this have happened to anyone else in my family? I don't have any siblings. None of my siblings have any issues at all. Everyone's healthy as can be. Both of my parents were always very healthy. My dad's still alive. He's 84, doing well. He had actually cancer once, and he kicked it just a couple of years ago.
In his 80s, he did.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think, well, you're in the 50s dealing with it. I'm in the 60s dealing with it. It's and you go to the, Sandy was with me yesterday in the chemo room, and there are people that come in and they tell you a story, and they're like, have sinuses removed. I don't have a sinus removed. I mean, but he's got to come every month for the rest of his life for chemo.
Wow.
And he had an incredibly positive attitude.
Yeah.
He was in his 50s. Yeah. Then you have this young woman who was basically just begging for medication. You know, she came in on oxygen, and she said she was on gabapentin, oxycodone, Oxycontin. I mean, just to
those are heavy hitters.
Just to take care of the pain. You know, and I'm like, and you could tell she was beaten. You know, that she was negative.
Yeah, and it's hard to see that, because it's easy to
give up.
It is, especially when you're in pain and there's nothing they could do about the pain. That's tough.
And Bernie Siegel said that some people have had such a tough time in life that cancer gives them a noble way out.
Yes. Yeah.
When in all his research, and I can see that.
Yeah.
I kind of have the you know, I'm retiring this year, and trying to figure out how I'm still going to be use right, to the recovery community of you know, it's the biggest part is where I feel called, you know, and I do feel called. It's time to take off this backpack and let somebody else carry it. You know, okay, it's your turn, and I'm okay with that. I don't, you know, because we built such a wonderful team here that I don't think I'll be like completely separate from it.
No, you won't.
I'll be part of it.
And even if you're not working, you are still a beacon of light and hope for others. And that, I think, is your higher calling.
Yeah, and we'll see how. Well, thank you for that. I don't really see myself. I'm still think I'm just another bozo on the bus.
And that's how I feel too. When people say that to me, they say, "No, you should tell your story. You should write a book. You should do a blog." And I'm like, I don't feel that I need to, you know. And you'd be so, you know, you give people so much hope and inspiration, and like.
So you came here. Were you familiar with recovery?
No, not
so
from substance.
How would you summarize what you've learned in your role at CCAR about recovery and the culture here and the people?
Yeah. I think the most important thing, and it goes back to the foundational principles, is always recovery first. And I think that people often forget that, and that you really do need to take care of yourself, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, all of the realms of being a human being, because it's not just one aspect of it. And you can be stronger in one area than you are in another. But I think that, and it has to come from within. It's not something that people are going to tell you to do. People can say, you know, try this, and you can try it, and if it doesn't work, then it's obviously not the right thing for you. Right. And it's a journey of learning who you are and what you need to do to bring peace to yourself.
Would you say you're in recovery?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most people are.
Did you know it before you came
No,
here?
I didn't. I didn't.
Mhm.
And yeah, working here has changed my view a lot of just recovery in general.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's. I think because of that, I've been more. I think that's one of the reasons I'm more peaceful too. That it's okay to take care of yourself.
Hmm.
So
It's okay to feel deeply too.
yeah,
It's okay
yeah.
to cry.
Yes, which I do all the time. Can hear my
Not,
tissues ready to go.
not all the time, but I think you cry a lot of the reasons like I think as we mature and we start to get more in tune with ourselves, that I say love makes me leak. When I feel deep love,
Yeah.
whether it's just saying hi or out of sadness or grief, I mean, the greater the grief, the greater the love. And so, um, so I think that's a wonderful thing. I don't think people cry always because they're in anguish or pain. It might
No.
be a pain because they love so deeply, and someone they love deeply is
Yeah.
hurting.
Yeah, and I agree because sometimes even when I'm outside, when I go for a hike and you just see something beautiful, it just brings up the
That's the
awesome, overwhelming feeling of it
that's
all.
like a moment of awe,
Yeah,
right? And that they
yes.
just go, wow,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Um, I think the people here see that in you too as well, that your lights are on. No, and the eyes are the lamp of the body, right? And your lights are on. And our bodies could be, who knows what's going on with either one of our bodies at any given time. Because I thought I had like diverticulitis or like worst case Crohn's disease or something. It takes a few pills for, and
Yeah.
next thing you know, they're cutting pieces out and
Right,
saying,
yeah.
time for chemo, gotta get rid of the cancer. I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And it really, again, um, um, I have two questions one major question that I want to ask you too is, I ask myself, what do I do with the time I have left? And what do you want to do with the time you have left? And can you even answer that?
Yeah, because I think about that because you never know when it's going to be the end of this existence. So I pretty much, I mean, of course I have, things that I've planned for the future, but I think that I take it day by day.
So what's one thing you have planned for the future?
Like in August, I'm going to spend a week in Mattapoisett, and
Yeah.
hopefully my kids will be able to stop in. I rented a home, and I told them I'm going to be there if you guys want to stop in. If
Wonderful.
not, and my son just moved out to Ohio, so I went out to see him in January, and I want to go out to see him again. So that'll be somewhere, hopefully, sometime at least once during the summer. And then just I don't know. Well, I was recently divorced too, so what are my next steps as far as my living arrangements? So I've been looking at houses and condos and that. I feel like I'm still growing. I still feel like there's
sure.
things to do. I still feel there's lots of life, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be granted all of that. So each day I wake up and I look at it from a perspective of wanting to, it's hard to put in words, wanting to be the best person that I can.
Yeah.
Wanting to let the light shine through me.
Right.
I don't know how else to say it.
No, I was actually just talking to TJ about a lot of that is what we talk about here at CCAR, carrying the message. And what's the message? The message is of recovery, but that's one of hope, love, and light. And we can all carry that.
Yeah.
We're all called to be torch bearers or recovery carriers or message carriers. Yeah, I see that. I think for me, it all boils down to that I think our Creator is one that likes to see us enjoying life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I've been pretty fortunate. I've enjoyed my life.
Yeah.
And I even I think I said this with Sandy when we talked about when I got diagnosed with cancer, that even if I passed right away to the next existence or whatever that may be, that I've enjoyed life. And I want to continue to get the most out of life and continue to enjoy life. And I think about when I retire, there's 5 A's that kind of come to me, in the A's where I want to be an artist right now, whatever that means. I just love creating art, and there's no judgment on whether it's good or not good. I like it, so that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
I want to be an author, which to me, I can start to write about some of the issues that bug me after 25 years in the field and where I see the field going. So I'm going to be writing a blog called Unfiltered, PHIL.
Of course.
So that would also be part of the advocate. So there's artist, author, advocate. I still want to be an advocate for people in recovery, people seeking recovery. I want to be an adventurer because I think life is an adventure. Everything can be a small adventure from, dragging my kayak out into the Narragansett Bay and paddling around. That's a major adventure. Taking a walk. They're all
Climbing
adventures.
up the stairs is an adventure.
I did it again. I did it again today. Yes.
Stairmaster Phil.
Yes, Stairmaster. And that goes into the last one, an athlete. And I don't say an athlete like I want to go play a professional sport, but I want to be physically fit enough so I can do the other things.
Yes.
That if I want to go on a backpacking trip, that I'm fit enough to do that, or take a long walk in the woods.
Yeah.
I'm even thinking about, and then my kids planted this seed. He said, well, Dad, if you beat this cancer, they said, when you beat this cancer,
Of course.
there's a good chance I might end up on the Appalachian Trail next year.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And just see, my goal isn't to finish. My goal is to start and just enjoy the walk for as long as it's enjoyable.
Yep.
If it becomes completely unenjoyable, not that you have to walk through those valleys. If it becomes completely unenjoyable, then okay, I can go home. No big deal.
Right.
But I would love to see all those sites again, and I won't be as stressed about it, right? Because I was so stressed about how is this going to work out, what's going to happen, where am I going to stay, and now I know better.
Yeah.
The experience is just enjoy the walk.
Yes.
It'll all work out. You'll figure it out as it comes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a place where I've gotten to too, because I have a mind that doesn't stop, but I've learned that you just have to be here in the present and not worry so much, because it will all unfold as it's supposed to unfold, and you just have to believe that the best for you is more than you can imagine, and the higher power has great plans for you, and you just have to.
I agree. Enjoy
go with that.
and enjoy the day.
Yes, and even though there's so many hardships that are thrown at you, and everyone has their own version of them, you have to. I kind of think of it as like a baseball player, like stuff keeps getting thrown at you when you're at bat, and you just got to hit it back. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
And run and go with it and see where you're going to end up. First base, second base, third base, home run. Who knows?
Right.
But you have to enjoy it. Go back with all your friends in the
Go sit on
dugout.
the dugout and smile. Play the dugout, but it is.
Yeah.
And it boils down to that more and more of just living in the present.
Yeah.
And that's to me being mindful is enjoying the moment that's right in front of you. What do you have right now? Because if I'm thinking about worrying about, and I don't worry, but thinking about something in the future, I'm not here enjoying now, or regretting or thinking about something in the past. A lot of it is fond memories and things, so I enjoy some of that. But it's all your mindset about, I'm doing this right now. Like, I can see that you lived in the present because I asked you, do you want to do this podcast 5 minutes before I came in the room? And you're like, Okay.
Yeah, it was unexpected. So
Yeah,
got some things to share.
didn't see that coming in my day. Well, I'm so glad that you decided to help me give a brief update on my condition. I thank everybody for all your love, support, and prayer. Um, I posted something and I just couldn't believe the outpouring. And I do my best to receive it and accept it. I don't know. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
So and I think that might be, there's also chemotherapy, and one of the drugs is nicknamed the Red Devil they give me. And
Yes. I think that's the one you shared. One of the ones you shared with me. I was like, yeah, I know
asked
one
the
exactly
nurse,
that
I
is.
said, did they call that the Red Devil as she was giving it to me yesterday? She looked at me, and there's another nurse in, and they go, well, some people call that nickname.
Yeah.
I said, maybe it ought to be called the Red Angel, or maybe it's the devil to, or maybe it's called the devil to cancer, or something like that. But so there is the chemotherapy. I think that's a part of it physically, but I don't underestimate the power of the spiritual aspect of what people can send you and how that can actually alter cells and that energy and do all that.
Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Mental and outlook and emotional. And, I know when I'm prednisone especially, but I've had my moments of like outbursts and near rage. It just surprised me. And then I have to work on controlling those emotions and not letting them have a reaction out of me.
Yeah.
And then the mental part is to do my best to be positive through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I was even asking Sandy yesterday, do you think I've been positive through all this? She goes, yeah, with everyone except me.
Well, she's also the closest one to you.
Well, that's the greatest compliment you could have paid me. She wasn't buying it, though.
Yeah, well, but she is the closest one to you,
yeah,
so she's
so
going to
I
get
can see-
everything from you.
Well,
so
the veneers kind of come down to like, sometimes you put up the positive front when you might not be you
yes.
kind of don't feel
Yes.
positive, but
Yeah.
you act positive.
Yes.
And
And do you
be
sometimes
positive.
feel like you have to support others who are upset by your situation?
No.
You don't ever
That's
feel
more
that.
probably more your issue.
That I felt
I don't
that
feel
when
that.
I was young. Like the breast cancer, I never felt like that. But when I was young, and I think maybe it was because a lot of my friends were upset about it. So I was always the one being, I'm going to be fine, don't worry. Or I know my mom was always very upset, and I was like, Mom, I'm going to be fine.
Well, I told a friend today, a male friend, that the PET scan revealed I had no cancer, and he just broke down and wept on the phone.
Yeah.
But I don't take, he said, you have no idea of what a burden this has been on me. And I said, you're right, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah. And you
I'm
get,
not sure why,
you get
but
to,
I just-
and I think that was also a learning point for me. Like, I couldn't support those people because I had to take care of myself.
Right.
And it makes, it changes, it just changes things.
The way I support people is just say, yeah, you're right, that's your burden.
Yeah.
Because I can't take that burden. I'm carrying my burden. That's
Right,
your burden.
right.
What you do with it is up to you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but at 17, I didn't know that. I mean,
I
older,
know.
I did, and like, I can't, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Exactly. That's a fair answer.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add?
So, just on a curious note, prednisone, does it affect your eating at all?
Oh, look at me. I gained like 50 pounds.
What's your favorite thing to eat? Did that change with the prednisone?
I think my taste buds have been affected a little bit, but I like a lot of very strong flavors.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. Like right now, I'm thinking of mustard.
Oh.
I have no idea why I'm thinking of mustard. But but there were some things like I got raspberry filled cookies and I couldn't stand them. The raspberry in them. Ugh. And I started with some like chocolate cake and I wanted some of that. I don't want that anymore. My go-to is like, I still just like eggs, sausage, and and like a hash brown, or just eggs have been huge, scrambled eggs. And I think it's my body telling me too, like something for the protein or what protein.
Oh yeah, maybe,
and beef or whatever. Why did you have something for you?
So when they started me on the high doses of it, all I wanted was Cheerios.
I love Cheerios.
And Oreos.
Well,
I don't know why.
one container of Oreos went out in the
and I remember
trash.
on the high doses, I ate a whole entire package of Oreo cookies.
That's crazy, right?
And I mean, at the time, I was probably like 100 pounds because I wasn't eating because of the chemo and everything. And they're like, you can eat whatever you want.
You can eat
and then they started me on this, and I was just like,
well, I was the cancer, and there were days where I didn't eat for like 10, 15 days at a time, hardly anything.
Yeah.
I was down to under 200 pounds, 196 at one time.
Yeah.
I think I'm close to 248 today, which is like, that's bad. But, you know, they also said your body needs the fuel, you're processing things differently, the prednisone's doing weird things. Once you get off of this, you go back to eating regular, weight will drop off, you get back down.
Yeah.
But I threw out all my fat clothes, so it's kind of bummed me out. I said, I'll never be that heavy again. Well, you know, 2 months later, I'm that heavy again. What the hell?
It'll go back, though. It'll fall off once you stop and get back to
so
the not crazy enough stuff.
I got 3 more rounds of prednisone, and then that's 2. I'm on one now for 4 more days. And then 2 more rounds at the next 2 treatments, and hopefully. But prednisone is kind of a miracle drug in a lot of ways. I don't like not sleeping much. I don't like that I get irritable. I do like that I have a lot more energy, though.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that because, and like even with the tamoxifen, you know, people ask me what about side effects because some people have really bad side effects, and to prednisone, like I don't really remember having terrible side effects. But I wonder if I did. But compared to all of the other stuff that was so horrible that I didn't even worry about.
It's hard to pull it all out. So,
yeah.
Like I said, I don't know if I'm being lazy or it's an effect of the chemo.
Right,
Because I've always, one of my traits is ingrained in me from a very early age is that I consider myself lazy. And like my Sandy, that would be the last thing she would call me. A lot of people
anybody,
say that, but I consider myself lazy.
I would never think that.
Yeah, well, I must do a good job of hiding it, but I don't know. So anyway, well, thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Phil.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate
you. Know I believe in you, and I'm so glad you made CCAR your place of employment. You've been a huge value added to what we do here.
It has been my pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.